Hello, this is part 2 of our painting brushstroke practice. And again, this is part 2, which is in the bottom half of your sketchbook here. You should have paper towels, your water bowl, at least 2 colors of paint, palette knife, your palette, and then be sure you're working on a messy mat to protect the table. And the other thing you will need is some gel medium. We're going to use this first. This is a special material that you can mix with the acrylic paint. It doesn't change the color of the paint, but it does help make it more fluid and allows you to blend better. This particular kind that we have makes it just a tiny bit more glossy. So we're going to do the blending here. And our goal is to have it fade smoothly from one color to the other. And you want to use what's called a flat brush here. Okay, I'm going to zoom in a bit. And I've got everything set up. I'm going to scoop a little bit of the gel medium and use my paint palette here to help mix. I'm going to make 2 spots of that, 1 for each color. And I'm going to start with my lighter color here. I'm going to mix it in a bit. I'm going to apply it over here. And then you have to work quickly so it doesn't dry. So I've got a bunch on there. I'm going to twirl it off on my palette. Dab it off on the paper towel, and I'm going to do the same thing here with the other color. And it helps if you pick 2 colors that are beside each other on the color wheel. They'll blend better. And I'm going to go ahead and apply the second. And if you see my brush strokes are moving top to bottom, I'm going to stop where they overlap and clean off my brush. This is where the fun part comes in. I'm going to go back to my lighter color, and I'm going to start pulling the darker color into the lighter color. And I'm just going to move my brush back and forth. And slowly but surely in the middle here, you should start to see them fading and blending into one another. This is an excellent technique for capturing values, especially for backgrounds. And voila. If the paint is still wet, you can do some touch-ups. Like I'm noticing, if I'm really picky, I can smooth this section out. And I'm lightly kind of gliding the brush top and back and forth to get a smooth fade. So that is part 2 with the blend with gel medium. You may pause the video to go and try that and then come back to the video for the next step. The next one is working with the palette knife. This is pretty fun. So an artist uses a palette knife to help scrape on the palette and to kind of mix colors. So I'm actually going to scrape what I have up from earlier, and you can smear it and just see what happens there. You can also scrape into it. You can maneuver the tool like this. It's almost like smearing icing. And the fun part with acrylic paint is if you scrape into it and leave some thicker spots, it will dry that way because acrylic is more of a plastic material. It'll dry hard in that shape or in that sculptural form. So you can really layer it on there. You may pause the video to go ahead and do this technique and then come back and watch the next. Okay, when you're ready for splashes, this is dangerous. So please warn the people around you. Make sure that you have a clear space. You're going to need a lot of water. And I'm going to mix this in my palette over here. I'm getting it really, really soupy. I'm describing it as soupy because you want the paint to be extra fluid with water. And then what you're going to do, once the area is clear, you're going to take your finger and just tap. And let me zoom out on the camera so you can see what I'm doing here. I'm just taking my finger and tapping and hitting down on the brush. It's going to make these spurts, which will create this kind of splash effect. So go ahead and pause the video and try splashes. Next one is experiment, and I actually left 1 or 2 spaces for you to try this. All of the techniques that you learned for part 1 up here, I want you to combine and try them on your own and fill in these spaces. So see what happens when you maybe layer 2 colors on top of each other. Like if I try streaks, but maybe I'll dip one color on one half of my brush, and then I'm going to dip a tiny bit of the red on the other half and see what happens when I can pull and blend them together. Try dabbing it when there's two colors on there. Okay, so fill up those spaces and experiment, maybe even invent your own techniques. Okay. Before you stop the video, I do want to remind you that at the end, make sure you do close up all of your paints, thoroughly clean those brushes, and I look forward to seeing what you come up with for part 2 of the brush strokes. Thank you for watching.